Hey everyone, welcome back to the Swiftly Sung Stories podcast. I'm Jen, I am your Swifty English teacher, and today we are going to tackle track 5 from The Life of a Showgirl, Eldest Daughter. In my previous videos, I have gone track by track through this album, and I also analyzed Taylor's prologue poem for the album. So if you want to get a little bit more context, you might want to go in order, but you can also just start right here as well. All of this content is available on my website, swiftly-sung-stories.com, linked in the show notes, where you can find my annotated lyrics for over 250 of Taylor's songs and so much more. There's quizzes, there's tons of fun stuff on there, so go check it out. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can also find me wherever you get your podcasts and vice versa. Welcome to Swiftly Sung Stories, where we unpack the Taylor Swift universe one era, album, and lyric at a time. Think of it like English class, but it's all Taylor Swift and none of the boring stuff. I'm Jen, your Swifty English teacher, and class is in session, so come on in and meet me in the margins. First, we need to lay a little bit of groundwork in terms of the themes and concepts that Taylor's really tackling in this album. So Eldest Daughter is track 5, and track 5s are Taylor's notoriously most vulnerable tracks on any album. Track 5 on TTPD was So Long London, track 5 on Midnights was You're on Your Own Kid, Evermore was Tolerate It, the list goes on and on, but you get the idea. These are incredibly hard-hitting, reflective, poignant songs. I'm not here to discuss whether Eldest Daughter fits into the canon of Taylor's track 5s. You can be the judge of that. But I think that we need a little bit of context to understand the themes more clearly. If you're not chronically online, you may have missed the entire conversation surrounding Eldest Daughters, because there's been a lot, especially in the last year or two. An eldest daughter is just the oldest girl in a family. It doesn't mean that you have to be the oldest and a girl. It just means that you are the firstborn girl. You might have older brothers, but if you're a firstborn daughter in any family, that is a big weight to carry. It's either because I am always on TikTok or because I'm an eldest daughter, or a little bit of both. But I've been witnessing this big cultural conversation happening. We're finally talking about what families expect of eldest daughters and why they are treated differently than eldest sons, and how that really shapes eldest daughters into people pleasers who bear the weight of the world, but are also expected to be these perfect caretakers and blaze their own trails and become wildly successful. And we're supposed to do all this while we are always taking care of everyone around us. We're supposed to be perfect at everything we tackle. This is really what Eldest Daughter is discussing. We lose our innocence because we were parentified too soon. The facade of toughness we had to build around ourselves. And really how the antidote to all of this is being honest about your vulnerabilities and admitting that you can't do it on your own. Only admitting that you're valuable can bring you home to your true self. I'm going to tag my favorite Eldest Daughter creator in the show notes. Shout out Dr. Ike if you want to further explore this cultural conversation that's taking place. But that's what Taylor is tackling in these lyrics and in these really vulnerable track 5. Quick disclaimer before we get into the lyrics. I only discuss Taylor's personal life in my lyrical analysis when it is essential to understanding the text or when it really helps us put the lyrics into context. I'm not here to discover what Taylor Swift did. I'm here to discover what the art does and what the art says. Also, I am dissecting Taylor's lyrics through my lens and my opinion, both as a writer and a former English teacher, and then also as an eldest daughter myself. So that doesn't have to be your lens or your opinion, and this means different things to different people. So in this analysis, I'm not saying it's factual or correct. I'm just here to point out different interpretations so that you can draw your own conclusions. So take what you like and leave the rest. Let's dive into the first verse of Eldest Daughter. Everybody's so punk on the internet, she begins. Everyone's unbothered till they're not. So our narrator is speaking in the first person in the present tense. So this is something that is happening right now. And right off the bat, we can see that she's pulling in this dialogue that's happening on the internet, which is a major motif in this track and in other tracks on this album. But she's drawing the distinction between being a punk, which is just being a jerk, and being so punk. To be so punk is to be unbothered, to pretend to be cool like nothing can affect you. But what she's going to get into here is that if you're putting on this facade of being cool, calm, and collected when really inside you're raging, Is that really so punk, or are you just kind of being a punk? We're all unbothered till we're not, or we're all so bothered that we can't maintain that facade of coolness anymore. So we bury our emotions until we erupt. Once something really irks us deep down, that facade falls and we can't pretend that we're unaffected anymore. She goes on, every joke's just trolling and memes, using these social media terms again. Sad as it seems, apathy is hot. So in trying to seem funny, in making jokes, she says what we're really doing is just trolling, cutting others down to raise ourselves up. This is all, she says, in the name of trying to seem apathetic, because the internet praises apathy. If we can seem tough enough online, like nothing can affect us, then our cool factor is upped. But if something bothers us and we make a joke about it and brush it off, what does that really do to our emotional well-being? I think that's what she's getting at, is that we're not dealing with our emotions. We're pretending that we're impenetrable. And what she's really saying is that apathy isn't hot. It's just putting on this front of, I'm too cool to care. You're denying your humanity and you're repressing your emotions. So this is the duality that she's setting up in the song, and really in this entire album as a whole. There are these two selves, the showgirl and then just the girl. The showgirl might try to look apathetic, but underneath all the feathers and sequins, there is a girl who isn't unbothered. She's bothered. She actually cares. And as much as she wants to pretend that it doesn't hurt, it hurts. The showgirl is kind of a facade built to protect the girl that's underneath, who's vulnerable. Everybody's cutthroat in the comments, she goes on. Every single hot take is cold as ice. So we all know the internet can be savage, especially in the comment section. And in pointing these out, she's identifying what we're trying to protect ourselves from. We pretend others' words don't hurt us, because if we admitted that we did, then we'd be seen as weak or vulnerable. The hot take is cold as ice is this brilliant juxtaposition, because often people will say hot take before they absolutely roast someone or something. And it's as if we label something hot take, then we're absolving ourselves of any real response. But really what these hot takes are, she's saying, is this icy, callous behavior wrapped in the facade of, it's just my opinion. And these hot takes are just another way that we try to seem cool or try to seem like an unaffected version of ourselves. When you found me, I said I was busy, she says. But then she quickly admits that was a lie. I was busy is the apathetic, trying to seem cool side of her. But then the real self, her vulnerable self, pops in and says, that was a lie. I was lying. When this unknown character tapped her on the shoulder, or maybe called out to her on the megaphone, she pretended she was too cool or too unbothered to respond. She was trying to seem like she didn't need anyone. But we can really see now that it was a fear response, and she sees that it was a fear response. But as hindsight is always 20/20, she sees it clearly now. That was a lie. She wasn't busy. She was just trying to be an eldest daughter island. It's saying, I don't need anyone because I'm entirely self-sufficient, which is kind of like, I swore my loyalty to me, myself, and I right before you lit my sky up. She's putting on a front in real life, just like we put on a front on the internet. It's built to protect her, but it also blocks letting other people in. The first pre-chorus begins, I have been afflicted by a terminal uniqueness. I've been dying from just trying to seem cool. So afflicted by a terminal uniqueness means that she's trying to be such an individual and so untouchable that she can't ever admit that she might need someone or need help. She has to be unique and entirely self-sufficient, but she sees that this is a terminal condition. What it really does is isolate you from the human experience and isolates you from your true self. It shields you from having to be vulnerable. And in pretending to be an island, she's dying from just trying to seem cool. This isolation and this facade of coolness will only metaphorically or emotionally kill. But I'm not a bad bitch, and this isn't savage. she says in the chorus. And she's once again using the language of social media, bad bitch and savage, just like hot take and trolling, to highlight the contrast between our hard outer shelves and our softer inner lives. We might put on the facade of bad bitch online, and we might be savage or cutthroat in the comments, but that's just us trying to seem unbothered, trying to seem like we're above it all. On the outside, we might be labeled these things or strive to be labeled these things, but she quickly admits that that's not her anymore. I'm not these things I have pretended to be or that others think I am. I'm not a bad bitch, and I don't want to pretend anymore, or I don't want to have to pretend with you. I'm never going to let you down, she says again to this unknown character, or to herself. I'm never going to leave you out. So she's stepping out from behind the curtain and admitting that while she may pretend to be something she's not on the internet or in the public eye, for this person, she's going to be genuine, or she's going to keep it 100, as she says in The Fate of Ophelia. But it's at this point where I have to wonder who she's talking to. Is she speaking to someone real, someone important in her life? Or is she speaking to the other side of herself? This album is all about the duality between the showgirl and the girl, or the shiny, sparkly, bad bitch outside versus the messy inside. It could be that she's speaking to one particular subject, but it could be both. She's speaking to someone important to her, but also speaking to the other side of herself. The showgirl can be unbothered till she's not, but the girl, the real girl on the inside, can be vulnerable and sentimental, and she can really care. So she closes out the first chorus with so many traitors, smooth operators, but I'm never going to break that vow. I'm never going to leave you now. The world is full of tricksters and people who pretend to be someone they're not, just like she told us in her previous track, Father Figure. But she's assuring whomever she's speaking to that she's not one of these tricksters. The vow is that she'll never let them down or leave them out of her inner life, her real self. Because now that she's revealed her true nature and let someone see behind the curtain, she can never go back to pretend being tough. In the context of this showgirl persona, this song really drops the act. And I think that what we're seeing in these lines is the real human behind the feathers and the sequins. The second verse gives us a little anecdote that will lead right into some backstory. You know, the last time I laughed this hard was on the trampoline in somebody's backyard. So we're still in the present tense, but we're looking back on times when she's felt a similar innocent joy as she feels now. The imagery of the trampoline conjures this nostalgic childhood vibe, but it also points to a line from the prologue poem, "He is a magnet and a trampoline." Read into that what you will, but it could be the same subject as she's speaking to in the poem she is in this song. I must have been about 8 or 9, she says, which is, of course, calls attention to 1989, the year of her birth and the name of one of her most iconic albums. And it's interesting to note that 1989 was, according to Taylor herself, the first time she ever truly reinvented herself. And she's about to tell us what sort of set all of these wheels in motion. That was the night I fell off and broke my arm, she says. She fell off the trampoline, and this lovely symbol of childhood innocence has hurt her. Something that brought so much joy ended up scarring her, and this is the beginning of innocence lost. Pretty soon I learned cautious discretion, she continues, when your first crush crushes something kind. So the trampoline accident was the first loss of innocence. The world can hurt you. Things that seem fun and innocent in the moment can end up breaking you. Then her first heartbreak, when your first crush crushes something kind, is the second loss of innocence. People can hurt you. What we're seeing is the origin story of this hard outer shell, which she has built to protect her from similar pain. This is the backstory that we needed to understand why she's evolved into this sort of split persona, hard on the outside and soft on the inside. It's a protective mechanism. She closes out the second verse with another admission. When I said I don't believe in marriage, that was a lie. We can imagine this girl trying to be tough, telling a partner, oh no, I don't even believe in marriage. But why would she do that? Because if he never wants to marry her, she can hide behind this tough facade. I didn't even believe in marriage anyway, so it doesn't matter. This little anecdote is really telling. She admits that she does believe in marriage, but in pretending she doesn't want it or doesn't need it, she's still pretending apathy is hot. But admitting that that was a lie and why she told it, this allows her to embrace these parts of herself that she's kept hidden behind the facade of trying to seem cool and unbothered. So she's coming out of this shell. She then goes into the second pre-chorus, and it's the first and only time that she mentions the title within the lyrics. Every eldest daughter was the first lamb to the slaughter. It's here that we learn a lot more about the real themes of this track. She's been talking about the evolution of eldest daughters all along and why we do the things we do, but this is the first time she says it outright. So eldest daughters, and especially millennial eldest daughters, are really a unique species. We are tasked with caretaking and emotional regulation and blazing our own trail when the patriarchy just wants us to sit down. We're told to lead, but also to follow. We're expected to be the good girl and to please everyone but never ourselves. Because of these assigned roles, many of us, me included, never really learned who we are. We were always the caretaker, but never the cared for. So we learned this hyper-independence to protect ourselves from pain. There was no one to really care for us, so we pretended to be an island. If we never need anyone and never let anyone in, then no one can ever hurt us. This is what she's getting at with the first lamb to the slaughter. And like a lamb to a slaughter means that we go blindly forward without realizing something bad is going to happen. So we eldest daughters went forth into the world in the only way we knew how, and on our own. And we had no idea how emotionally damaging this sort of manufactured isolation would really turn out to be. We were the metaphorical first lambs to the slaughter. So we all dressed up as wolves and we looked fire, she says. So us eldest daughters are marching into the battle of life, pretending to be the big bad wolf. But really, we were Little Red Riding Hood. We just didn't see it yet. We looked fire pulls in another modern social media phrase like bad bitch and hot take. But what this means is we looked hot, we looked great, we looked powerful and impenetrable. But underneath the wolf costume were these real emotional wounds. It was all a facade. But I'm not a bad bitch, and this isn't savage, she repeats. So she may have dressed up as wolves, but that's not who she really is. She's taking off the mask and revealing herself to either another version of herself or to someone else. I do want to quickly point out another parallel to the prologue poem in which she says, "Let the wolves howl all they want. The moon should never howl back." In the poem, the wolves represent the public, both her fans and her foes, and she is the moon. So in this song, are these the same wolves? Maybe. It's something to think about. It could be that she's saying that her loudest critics are also dressing up as wolves, trying to look tough or sound tough, when really it's a protective mechanism to keep us from feeling our feelings. Moving on to the bridge. This is where our narrator tells us what happened when she finally took off the mask and let someone in. We lie back, a beautiful, beautiful time lapse. So this paints a portrait of a couple laying down, relaxing together, but it's also a metaphor for taking in the big picture. The time lapse, which is yet another modern internet term, is showing us what we've all been through. Ferris wheels, kisses, and lilacs. So she sees this time lapse in her mind, and things I said were dumb. She's seeing all these cliche trappings of romance, but she's seeing them in a new light. And if she thought Ferris wheels and kisses were dumb before, she doesn't think that they're dumb anymore. And it's because she's no longer pretending that she doesn't like those things so that she won't be disappointed if or when she doesn't get them. Just like when she said she didn't believe in marriage to protect herself if she never got asked. But why has she changed her tune? Here goes. Because I thought I'd never find that beautiful, beautiful life that shimmers that innocent light back like when we were young. She's automatically labeled these cliches of romance dumb because she never thought she'd get to experience them. But now when she looks back on this time lapse of these romantic moments, Ferris wheels, kisses, and lilacs, it doesn't feel silly. It feels pure, like that childhood innocence she thought was lost. The pure joy of childhood trampolines and having a first crush and riding a Ferris wheel and having your first kiss. It is something that you can experience again with fresh eyes, but first you have to put down your cynicism and put down your ego. Just like she tells us in Opalite, you can be happy if you let yourself be happy. She closes out the bridge with every youngest child felt they were raised up in the wild, but now you're home. So she's contrasting the role of the eldest daughter, who had to go out and find her own way, with the role of the youngest child, who is often left behind. But raised up in the wild also reminds us of that previous line, we dressed up as wolves. The youngest child was raised in this wild pack with the eldest daughter as the leader. And I think that what she's getting at is that if we can drop our assigned roles and drop our facades, we can come home. We can come home to ourselves and really get to know ourselves away from these labels and expectations of others. So what was lost in growing up can ultimately be found if you can stop pretending to be so damn tough. No matter where you are in the birth order, you got to let the ego go. The final chorus and the outro echo what we've heard before. But now that she's gone through this journey of showing us how she built this facade around her and also showing how she relinquished it, it all feels a bit more nuanced. So she repeats, I'm not a bad bitch. This isn't savage. And this time it really means I'm not that person anymore. I may have pretended to be, but I've dropped all the pretense. And I'm never going to let you down. I'm never going to leave you out. This is a promise to both herself and a promise to this other character she's speaking to. She'll never be that version of herself again that denied her needs and shut people out just to assert independence. So many traitors, smooth operators, but I'm never going to break that vow. I'm never going to leave you. Now. So now that she's found this new worldview, she'll never take it for granted again. And the vow is not only a promise to this other character, but it's a promise to herself. She'll never hide behind that rough exterior again, because now she knows how harmful it was. It prevented her from experiencing joy. She thought she'd never find that joy like childhood again because she was pretending to be the tough adult. And this repeated now, she repeats it 3 times, now. It really emphasizes that everything has changed. Learning who to trust has been a hard lesson. And for a while, she felt that she couldn't trust anyone. But she has learned to trust herself and learned that it's okay to let other people in when you're being genuine and true to yourself. It's when you're pretending to be unbothered that you'll attract the wrong people. Never going to break that vow. She promises again to both herself and this unknown character, never going to leave you now. So parts of herself that she abandoned in the search of trying to seem cool, those parts have been reclaimed and she's never going to let go of them again. She repeats this again, I'm never going to leave you now. But who is you? It could be her partner or her family or her fans or all of the above. But to me, it feels like she's addressing her inner child. She's promising not to abandon that needy child inside who is looking for love in the only way that she really knew how. That inner child has been crushed by the demands of the loud world who only value apathy and being unbothered. But that inner child is not apathetic. That inner child is not unbothered. She's needy. And for the first time, admitting that she has needs and deserves to have them met, that has allowed her to be open to accepting joy. She's found joy, whether it's in a relationship within herself or in both. And that eldest daughter, who only ever tried to please others, has finally learned to please herself. And that makes for a beautiful, beautiful life moving forward. That's it for track 5, Eldest Daughter. And now I want to know what this song means to you, especially if you are an eldest daughter like myself. Please leave your thoughts in the comments. There is no one single correct interpretation or right answer. We're just tossing around ideas here. And that's the fun part about art. It means different things to different people. If you found this content insightful or entertaining or just want to keep geeking out about Taylor Swift with me, please like and subscribe. I'm just starting out this podcast and it really, really means the world to me and it helps a lot. Stay tuned for the next episode where we are going to dive into the lyrics of Ruin the Friendship. Thanks so much for being here with me. I'll see you in the next track. That's it for this chapter of Swiftly Sung Stories. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please don't forget to follow, subscribe, or leave a review. It helps other Swifties find their way here. I'm Jen, and I had a marvelous time reading everything with you. See you next time.